Hi, I'd like to introduce you to a computer game proposal. The game is called Finding the World Tree. It's primarily designed for girls ages 4 to 14. It's an interactive storytelling game and a walking simulation game. The images that you're going to be seeing represent a sort of mood board that I'm using to introduce the game to you. The World Tree is a long-standing human myth. It represents something that was created when the earth was created. Trees have been used as sacred and non-sacred gathering places throughout human history. In this game, four girls from different parts of the world are going to go on a quest to find a world tree, and in doing so, they're going to find each other. The weeping cherry tree is a tree that young girls have been attracted to in many different cultures. I felt it would make a good quest object as a world tree for each character's exploration in this game. If all four girls find the gate that goes into the world tree's enclosure, the level changes and the four girls start dancing around the tree. The player has won the game. A reference I used was a storytelling art game called The Path. It was released in 2009 by developers calling themselves Tale of Tales. As you can see from the images, it also lets the player freely guide girls along a path. It also borrows from folk tales and fairy tales. The start screen is designed to be clear and simple and show that there are four different story paths the player can choose from. The time setting for each story is in the non-defined past, like a folk tale. Each character has just left her home. She wants to explore her surroundings. There are various paths each player can choose to move the character. As the character walks down the paths, various objects and events, such as weather, friends, strangers, good or dangerous animals, make the journey eventful. There are different path matrices programmed each time a new game starts to keep the game interesting. Clues are given out that a beautiful garden with an amazing magical world tree can be discovered if the character doesn't run out of time. There won't be points or scores in this game, but time does accrue on a time clock, and bad events can add to a running time clock on the user interface. The character will have 3 hours before she must return home and the game ends. This isn't 3 hours real playing time, but game time. If the player's character reaches the world tree, the player can keep choosing a new character to play from the start screen. If all four characters find each other at the world tree, the game is won. The characters dance around the tree together, special effects celebrate the event, and the game ends. I chose this type game because I think girls are underserved with good story games. I dislike most game art for girls and wanted to showcase better game art, harkening back to fine book illustration. No Cupid doll faces, no recent Disney girl art, no anime style here. Russia has a rich folklore tradition of eventful journeys in the forest. The Russian girl's story path draws upon that history, as well as Grimm Brothers fairy tales like Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood. The level design shows a girl's wood farmhouse by a river, and this shows you the interior. She lives in a small village on the outskirts of a forest. Like the other children in the village, the girl is curious to explore the deep, mysterious forest. These are mood board images that show the beautiful and rich tradition of Russian book illustration. You also see here a witch that the Russians call Baba Yaga, who is someone the girl will probably encounter in the forest. Being a game, this is no ordinary forest. There are bears, wolves, the witch, and a delectable house deep in the forest. There are beautiful secluded pools, friendly boys and other girls, and one path in the deepest part of the forest leads to the World Tree. As with the other three levels, this is a third-person perspective camera style, with the camera tracking the choices the player makes when choosing where to explore. This is the Russian gate leading to the World Tree enclosure. It uses Russian birch trees in the design. The Danish girl is modeled after The Little Mermaid, that famous fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen. The Danish girl's world begins underwater. Her home is a shipwreck. The Danish girl can alternate from being a mermaid to having legs when she reaches the shore. In the first part of the level, the player can enjoy paths in the ocean itself. The camera will imitate being able to swim among the fish. The player can decide to move the character onto the seashore. There are various parts along the shore where the player can land and begin exploring. These images show again the similarity to The Little Mermaid and how the character can help rescue a prince and become friends with the prince and princess. Eventually, the player is going to move the character along paths leading from the shore towards the World Tree. This is a mood image of some of the paths by the ocean and the friendly Great Danes. This is the rocky gate to the World Tree enclosure that the player eventually finds. And you can see some of the friendly birds and dogs that help guide the player there. The Chinese girl lives in southern China in an area where rice is grown on terraces in the mountains. This is a view of the rice terraces and her village from the girl's bedroom with a friendly bird. The Chinese girl also sets out on a journey and along the paths meets other friends, strangers, good and dangerous animals. This is the Chinese gate that leads to the World Tree enclosure. The last of the four story paths is the story of a girl who lives in a village in the Congo. She lives in a small village on the outskirts of a jungle. The Congolese girl encounters kind strangers as she begins her exploration into the jungle paths. As with Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, she finds both dangerous and helpful animals. She also meets helpful children when she's exploring. Deep in the forest, she finally encounters the gate to the World Tree enclosure. This is based on a traditional African art design. When each character goes through the gate into the World Tree enclosure, the character can't return back. This was a quick concept sketch of the player's movement through all four gates. These next few images show the typical mood of going through the paths close to the gate. These next images show the World Tree with the gates in the background. Here are the girls again dancing around the World Tree that they have each found. I hope you've enjoyed these images, and I hope you like the game concept.